Hi everyone, I'm Glenda with SureFit Designs, and I know lots of you already know me as Glenda the Good Stitch. Today I'm bringing to you another one of our educational videos so that you can improve your fitting and ultimately your sewing. And what I'm going to talk about is the underarm portion of the sleeve. In previous videos, I did show you how to do a large upper arm tune-up or alteration, but I didn't really focus on what happens at the underarm, and so I would like to do that today. And in your SureFit Designs dress kit instruction book, on page 18, you're going to see that I do have here a large upper arm alteration or tune-up. I talk about how to measure your bicep and also how much ease you should have in the bicep area, and then I give you illustrations on how to make modifications to your sleeve. But one of the things that you'll see is I'm using a sleeve here in the illustration without an elbow dart. And so a couple of you have said, well, Glenda, I've got an elbow dart. What do I do when I go to true the underarm portion of this sleeve? And so that's what I would like to take a look at today. And in doing so, what I'd like to discuss is the ease requirements that you might want to consider as you're evaluating your sleeve fit. In the bicep area, I like to see 2 inches of ease. Now I know in the instruction book I said 1.5 inches, and if you're working with a knit fabric, 1.5 inches is generally plenty. But when you're working with a woven fabric, you're going to have more comfort and better reach room with 2 inches of ease. In the elbow area, keep in mind you are bending your arm, so again you're going to need about 2 inches of ease in your elbow area. And in the wrist, you likely are going to want about 1 inch of ease. And I'm going to pull this sleeve down, and even though I didn't design it as a long sleeve garment, in the wrist area, if you've got 1 inch of ease, that means you're only picking up about 1/2 inch on either side. And you need to have some movement room in that area as well. So let's keep those dimensions in the back of your head as I go through this demonstration. Now we're going to take a look at this sleeve pattern already pre-drawn, and I'm going to measure what this gives me from underarm point to underarm point. That is 14 inches. So let's just take an example and say we have a 14-inch sleeve. We're going to subtract 2 inches because this has built-in wearing ease. So that means I can comfortably get a 12-inch arm inside this sleeve. But you say, my arm is already 14 inches around. I need to have more ease. So we're going to start off with a 14-inch arm. I'm going to add 2 inches, and so that means that this sleeve needs to measure 16 inches. All right? So I've only got 14 inches. That means I have 2 inches I need to add, and what I'm going to do is add 1 inch on the front of the underarm here. You can tell it's the front of the sleeve because it's got a single notch right there. And I'm going to add 1 inch on the back of the underarm, from underarm to underarm, and again, double notches indicate the back of the sleeve. Now, easy enough to take your line drafter and simply connect from the new underarm point to the wrist level and extend this out like that. But now we come over to the side of the sleeve that has the elbow dart. And I can't just connect from that new widened underarm point to this wrist because it's cutting off and removing the necessary shaping that I have for the elbow dart. So what you want to do here is you need to fold your dart in position. And because I want the bulk of the dart aiming downward, I'm going to take the bottom leg of the dart and I'm going to fold it up. And because I'm creating a bubble in the sleeve pattern, I'm making it three-dimensional. And this isn't working right for me right here, so I'm going to fiddle with this for a minute and get it so that I can maneuver it like this, okay? And so I'm putting stitching line to stitching line on the dart area. And now I'm going to take some of our removable tape and just tape it closed. But now I've got to connect from this green dot down to the wrist level, and I've got this big bubble in the center that I want to deal with. So an easy way to true this on a flat surface is to take the tip of your dart right here, and we're going to make one more crease in the pattern like this. All right, and you can see what happens is that lays down nice and flat now. And now I can true from the new widened underarm point to the wrist level. And what's happening is it's truing right through that elbow dart position. And if you were to take your rotary cutter and cut along that edge, that new green line, when you open this up, it will automatically true and perfect the proper cutting line that you need to have on the dart extension. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to do one more little demonstration on here. And so I want to remove my tape, unfold it, and position it for you to see this, like that. So it's right in here that this dart extension would be drawn out as you cut. Now, one thing that I want to mention is that this is a stripped down pattern, which means, of course, it doesn't have any seam allowances on it. So once you've done any of these modifications, please make sure you come back and add your 5/8 inch seam allowances, which of course we all know is really easy to do with the designing stylus because the slots right here, the edge of the slot nearest the outside edge is 5/8 of an inch. So you would just place this back in place like this and add on your seam allowances. Now, let us take a look at the elbow area, excuse me. And we're going to say that you not only have a large upper arm in your bicep area, but maybe you know that you're really large in the elbow area as well. Your fullness continued down. And it might have also continued down into your wrist area. We don't know until you start measuring yourself and comparing it to the pattern. So I'm going to measure across at the elbow area, and from this original black line to the dart black line, the original that I drew, it's 12.5 inches. And so that means if I'm using my 2-inch requirement for elbow ease, then that means, let's see, what did I have? I had 12.5 inches, subtract 2 equals 10.5 inches. So I can comfortably put in a 10.5 inch elbow circumference. But maybe your elbow circumference is, I'm going to just say 11.5 inches here. So I need to add 2 inches. I should be doing this in the green so that it really stands out differently. I need to take my elbow circumference, I need to add 2 inches, and that's going to make it 13.5 inches. All right? So when I measured or trued in the green line, what did I end up getting? I needed 13.5 inches right here, and I actually have 13 3/4. So this would be adequate. There wouldn't be any need to make any modification. But if you needed to change this, you could widen it out further at the elbow area as well. And now I'm just going to take a look at the wrist circumference. This wrist circumference is 9 inches. So we'll go 9 inches. And here in the wrist area, we want 1 inch of ease. So if I subtract 1 inch, that means that I can comfortably put in an 8-inch circumference wrist. I know that when I measure my wrist is 6 inches around. So of course this pattern isn't for me. It's got more ease than I would ever need, but these are how you play with the numbers and figure things out. So now let's make an assumption that, let's see, what number should I use here? Let's say that we'll go with a 9-inch wrist circumference. And I need 1 inch of ease, so that means I need 10 inches totally across the width of the wrist circumference. So I'm going to use a different color to do this. Let's add a 1/2 inch here, and I will add a half an inch over there. And I can extend those lines. And now I will once again take the line drafter, and I'll go from my wider underarm point to the new wrist circumference point on that side. So now I've got a wider underarm, a wider elbow area, and a wider wrist circumference area. And I need to do the same thing here. But again, I have the elbow dart to deal with. So I'm going to get that folded in place and get it taped down. And then to allow for the 3-dimensional circumference or bubble that I've created, I'm just going to fold the sleeve pattern like this. And then I will connect from the extended underarm point to the red dot. And then, of course, I would add seam allowances. So I'm just going to show you what happens here when I add the seam allowances. Once again, I'm putting the edge of my really fat-nibbed pen against the edge of the designing stylus. Any of these demonstrations that I do them in these very bright markers so that you all can see what I'm doing. But of course, at home, you're going to be using a pencil. If you make any errors, it's easy enough to erase. And it's just going to be a lot smoother for you. So now I have given a wider elbow area, given a wider wrist area, and so that I can cut this without cutting the other portion of my sleeve, I'm now going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut on the seam allowance there. Of course, you do the seam allowances all the way around. And let me remove that tape, and you'll see that when I open this up, it gives the correct cutting line or correct extension. So you are truing the cutting line for the dart as well as the elbow area down into the sleeve area. Now, this doesn't happen very frequently, the next little scenario I'm going to talk about, but you might need to have a curved underarm. And so as we take the designing stylus, and why would you need that? It's just because your arm is larger all the way down. So I'm going to do this in pencil initially, and I'm just going to see what it looks like. And then I'll go this way from the underarm. So what I'm telling you here is that you can curve your underarm seam as well, depending on the shape of your arm. Again, I've got too many lines over here. I'm not going to do that on this side, but please keep in mind that you can curve your underarm seams to, again, allow for more fullness for your arm, depending on if you need it. Just remember our guideline here in terms of how much ease that you need for comfort and wearing room. But please remember that this is your sleeve on your arm and it's you wearing it. So if you want more or less than my 2 inches of ease in bicep and elbow area and 1 inch in the wrist area, that's up to you. You can modify it. But when you're working with a woven fabric, this is really the best proportions to start off with initially, then you test it. And please make sure that when you test it as if you're moving in the garment. So you've got to reach in that sleeve, you've got to move, you've got to bend your arms, because it all needs to feel comfortable on you. Okay, so I hope this gives you a little bit more insight into what you can do with your sleeve pattern to modify for your unique body shape and size. I would like to invite you to join the SureFit Designs community, and you can do that, of course, by going to surefitdesigns.com and signing up for the newsletter. There are free gifts to get you started, and please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of videos for your benefit and as a resource for you to get the best fit possible. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.